because why not? You should be recording. All right, so we were just going to talk about our library media science curriculum standards. So I loaded the main hubs where we pull from onto the Google Classroom, and I just want to make sure that everyone's familiar with where they come from. And I'm going to start by opening. This was the mid-year document I came up with and shared with you all halfway through the school year. And at the very top of this, let's go down there. 120. There we go. So at the very top of this whole color coding system, this was me taking we have four curricular, in the previous district I worked in, we called them priority standards, but that would be like if you teach English through Common Core state standards, you have your four main categories. So reading, writing, speaking and listening, and language or conventions. Those are your four main strands as an English teacher. So as a teacher librarian or as library staff, we have very similar standard strands. But it's the reading advocacy, because hello, we're librarians. And then we have information literacy, that's like media literacy, evaluating sources. That also plays into embedding information into like research papers. And I'm a huge proponent of Gale databases just because the state pays for that hub for us. So it covers many things. And then we have digital citizenship and then technology integration. So this little chart was midway through the school year. I was like, okay, what are we doing? Have we even brushed the surface of those curricular standard areas? And I'm speaking from a grade level wide perspective. Okay, so like, this was really beautiful. I thought amazing this school year is we taught all of our third graders, the whole entire grade level, for their animal research essay. Every student found and saved to their Google Drive articles from the Gale databases for their animal research project. So the whole entire grade level, grade 3 did that, as did 7, 8, and 10 this school year. And then let's see. Yeah, so just so you all kind of know how my brain functions, I like to, when I'm going back up to this chart, I mean, I'm going to collab all day, every day with any teacher that wants it, any content area, any type of lesson they want. But when I'm looking at this stuff specifically, I'm thinking of a guaranteed viable curriculum. Like, what can I say to our superintendent and what can I tell parents in our communities that I will guarantee all children get from the library every single school year? That's kind of how I approach this. And when you're looking at not just a class of 20 kids, but I look at the school district, like my class of 1,400 kids, you have to get really strategic and specific. Like, what am I going to guarantee that 1,400 children get every single year? And so that's how I get to Gale. So under information literacy, media literacy, research writing, etc., I could do a million things. But I know the one thing that I'm going to get the most bang for our buck is teaching kids how to go into Gale, find, save, and cite articles. Does that kind of make sense? And you all can just like chime in at any point in time. So then it's like, well, okay, these are our 4 priority standards. Like, what does that mean? Tell me more about that. Let me move this little thing that's kind of in my way. So let's hop back to the Google Classroom. So where do we get our standards from? This is our Oregon Association of School Libraries homepage. And you can click right here, OASL standards. And this is like a little, I haven't used this the whole time, but you can search, you can search grade level, you can keyword search, you can look that way. You can pop over here and standards with indicators. So this is going to be like per the state of Oregon. These are kind of all the different resources that exist out here. We pulled everything down into these specific smaller set of standards. And we're pulling Oregon for the Oregon Library Standards and Indicators. They have pulled from Common Core State Standards, ISTE, International Society of Technology and Education, and also the American Association of School Libraries. So the state of Oregon had a team that consulted all of those varying places of standards and kind of boiled everything down into something that's a bit more palpable and easier for library staff to pull from. So yeah, there's information literacy. And these are a little outdated, but revised 2019. I'm going to say that we're quite underfunded in the state of Oregon in terms of library staffing and resources. And you've heard me say that a lot. But that means that like we'll have a team of volunteers 1 year to work on our standards, and then someone's position gets cut and people leave. And so we're always like, the stuff isn't as streamlined as one would think it would be because we're relying on volunteer efforts in the state of Oregon. So, but anyway, here's a, just boiled down, bare minimum set of standards that you could pull from if you're, teaching or presenting information to our children. I'm going to close that. So Oregon Association of School Libraries, and it's 310. It's so fast. It's going to be so fast. So let me pop open next. Future Ready, because I know you all have heard me talk about Future Ready a ton. Future Ready is not a set of learning curricular standards like Common Core State Standards. The Future Ready framework is a nationwide, it's probably global now, but it's a nationwide network. And it involves, what's beautiful about Future Ready is that it's saying, hey, school systems, if you want to move your school system ahead to address 21st century learning, future ready learning, to meet our kids where they are and what they need to know to grow into jobs and positions that haven't even been created yet. Here's a framework for your school district to use to get on the right path. And what's the most beautiful about Future Ready is that you can see it's like, hey, you need all of these people at the table. So your superintendent, your IT department, your school board, your instructional coaches. And I don't believe we have very many instructional coaches. We probably have in the past, but your principals, and then your library staff, because we are always left out of everything. And so Future Ready is saying, if you want your district to move ahead, you got to pull all these people together. You need to come up with a plan, and they have, they've got like databases and templates and everything that your school district can just take and populates and create a plan with. But again, Future Ready is so amazing for us as librarians because it gives us a seat at the table, whereas oftentimes we're completely left out or forgotten about. So that's why Future Ready is gold. They're like gold. And honestly, in the middle of this pandemic, Future Ready leadership across the country has been leading the charge. Like Shannon McClintock Miller is one of the Future Ready librarian spokespeople. And I think that she has been our #1 superstar in the middle of this pandemic in terms of creating systems for COVID, for touchless browsing. She created basically one huge national PLC. That's what all those Future Ready summits were, like on Saturdays, sprinkled throughout the school year. She's just amazing. So anyway, you want to stay abreast of what Future Ready people are doing. Next, I'm going to hop over to the American Association of School Librarians. So this is our national network. Usually at our OASL conferences every year, we have the AASL president or representative join us. They usually speak during lunch, or they have a panel or something like that. But if we go to standards, National School Library Standards, I'm gonna say, I don't know, they published a book a couple of years ago with all these revamped standards, and maybe a little clunky, not gonna lie. But anyway, let's look at the crosswalk if we can. So see, you're opening the AASL standards crosswalk, so it's going to compare AASL to Future Ready, ISTE, Next Gen. Those are the science standards. And I'm not familiar with Code Google First Curriculum. Let's see what they say. What's their crosswalk for Future Ready? All right. So they're taking the National Library Standards created by the American Library Association and showing how they align to the Future Ready standards. Okay. And the AASL standards are a bit much to digest. I don't know if I still have my book, but I'll bring it in for you all if you want to take a peek at that. I'm going to pop out of there. And then let's open up real quick, ISTE. The founder of ISTE lives in Florence, Oregon. Did you all know that? I don't know his name, but somehow throughout my virtual field trip stuff, someone was like, hey, by the way, you should interview the founder of ISTE, former founder of ISTE. But if we go here to the ISTE standards, again, this is where we're pulling all of our library standards from. And let's just look at the kids' standards first. So yeah, part of ISTE, we want our children, and you'll open these up and it'll break things down, but these are the 7 strands. So like I said, we have 4 main strands as an English teacher, 4 main strands as a teacher librarian. ISTE in their worlds, 4 students identify 7 strands, and you can see what they are. And there's our digital citizenship, which we've been working on so hard this school year. But everything digital citizenship that we do, common sense media, etc., it all, ISTE is our foundation for anything digital citizenship. Okay, I just talked a lot and just showed you some websites. What are your questions right now? What do you want to know about library standards? And this is just a where to find them, quick overview. Thoughts or feelings or questions?
Do you know, like, I guess how successful are you so far? I know that like the digital citizenship stuff went well this year. Is there plans for more like district-wide integration of these in the future? Or because I feel like a lot of that might be something that is, I guess the hurdle is to like try to get it like either building wide, like what's the word, like I guess endorsement or acceptance of like actually going through with something. Is there any like do you have any ideas of like some stuff that you're going to be doing next year that's similar to like digital citizenship that you did this year? Is there any like groundwork in that you've been able to do so far? Or I was just kind of curious how that was going.
Yeah, no, really good question. You've heard me say a million times that we need to align in Siuslaw. And so the last data team meeting that we had, we're again pushing alignment, and that kind of has to come from district leadership. We have to have our district leaders say, hey, we value teaching and learning, and we know what's best for kids is that our teachers are aligned in their curriculum. If you don't have aligned, we don't even have like a published scope and sequence, just like what everyone is doing each quarter and how they're assessing the learning. If we're not aligned, you could have overlap. You could have teachers like they already, taught something one year and then the next year a teacher's reteaching it, or we're going to have gaps. And so I tend to go through English classrooms because I was a former English teacher and I tend to get buy-in with those English teachers. And I am meeting with Lisa, I want to say in 2 weeks. And there was talk of, at our last data team meeting, of building in pockets of time in our work calendar next year for PD and for PLC specific alignment via PD. It sounds like, you all can tell me, it sounds like we've had PDs look different every year. This year was an anomaly, of course, because of COVID, but yeah, in my mindset, we have to create the pockets of time for the PD and PLC to happen before we even begin to talk about alignment. Because the number one thing teachers, as a former classroom English teacher, I would say like, hey, that sounds awesome, but when am I going to do it? Like, when's the time? When am I going to meet with my colleagues to plan formative assessments for learning for units of study together? You have to have the time for it. But from what we have already done this school year, I mean, I will continue that. We'll just keep on building on digital citizenship and just make it even better next year and more, embed those lessons. And I see the common sense media lessons that we've done as like really basic. Like I think of digital citizenship as like a triangle table, like Bloom's taxonomy. So we're like those lessons are designed to be very basic. That's just basic terminology, understanding of language, understanding of concepts. The minute we actually have staff members and students begin to like use social media for fundraisers, to engage the community, to reach outside of the classroom, that's when you start going up the Bloom's table and you get to creation and authentic learning. So we're just like, we just laid groundwork for digital citizenship this year. We just laid groundwork for information literacy and using field databases. That was just very groundwork level. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but we covered a lot of ground this year and we had a lot of opportunity gaps. So yeah, good question though. I don't know, any thoughts or feelings about curriculum indicators and standards and alignment right now? Okay, if you don't, that's fine. If you don't, if we're good. I showed you where to find things and we'll continue to move forward from there. But especially in library land, it is just always good to, what do I want to say? Well, just like in any classroom, you always lead your lesson with your learning standard and your I can statement so that it just legitimizes the learning that's happening. And we have learning standards too. That's like something that a lot of people don't know. They oftentimes think of library as ancillary or extra, or we're just a place for stuff. And it's like, no, our children by law are supposed to be learning curriculum based on all of these standards, just like any other content area, like English, math, social studies, and science. We have library, media, science curriculum standards that are supposed to be taught as well. And I mean, oftentimes there's carryover, like a lot of the library standards are very similar to English standards, or very similar to even our social studies standards, or some things that might even be addressed in like computers, any kind of computers classes we have, or technology classes, but we have some standards that we need to be teaching. Yeah.
So does that change what we're going to be teaching in the library, or okay, I just wasn't sure if there was something that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, I know, Julia, you see all those elementary children weekly, and it could maybe be refining some of what you're doing or slapping a learning standard, first before you dive into your lesson. The other thing I will say, there are some differences between certified and classified expectations in the library. And whenever you hear me articulate differences between the two, like never take it as, what do I want to say? They're just contractual differences, right? Like I get paid a different salary than you all get paid. And in some districts kind of fudge the lines a little bit, but really typically in the state of Oregon, we say that you should not be expecting classified staff members to fully teach because they're not being paid the salary to do that. And usually the rule of thumb is like you are going to keep on doing what you're doing, Julia, and it's awesome. You're being expected to do more than most people and more than what you're being paid for, and more than what the OASL job description says you're supposed to be doing. And you're doing a beautiful, wonderful job and it's working for you. But you are being asked to do more than most.
Yeah, because I did ask at the very beginning, Mike, I says, do we have a library curriculum? And he says, no, we don't. And he told me at that point, he says, I can't really tell you what you're supposed to be. I mean, other than the regular job description, he can't really tell me what to teach in the library. And I'm thinking, what? So that's when I went looking in the cupboards, and I think I was looking at things on YouTube. It was just like, oh yikes, what did I get myself into?
No, you're doing a fabulous job, Julia. And again, you're doing more than what you're being paid to do, really, if I'm just gonna be frank and honest. Oftentimes districts, like I'm thinking of Amy Cage over in Eugene, usually they'll have a certified district teacher librarian, and their responsibility will, they're doing everything that they're doing and running around and whatever, but they won't pay for, what does she have? Let's say she has 17 elementary schools. They'll pay for 17 classified individuals for the elementary schools. They won't pay for the certified individual in each elementary school, but they'll say, okay, certified district librarian, your job is to create lessons and give them to the classified folks in the building. And then it's okay for them to be teaching because they are not being expected to create the content. So you're kind of just doing everything, Julia, and you're doing an amazing job. So my only thing would be to say is just like expand the horizon beyond reading and know that it's kind of 1/4 of what we do now. Like, I mean, from my perspective as a certified teacher librarian, it is 1/4 of what I do. You know what I mean? Our jobs are a little different, but we could easily inject like we did this year, like inject some more digital citizenship mini lessons, or you do research and maybe inject some more Gale, now that all of our kids have Chromebooks, we can actually do that. And then the technology integration piece, how I handle that is I think of what tool, what handful of tools can I get the most learning impact with, the most bang for our buck. And so like Flipgrid is one for me. It teaches digital citizenship, it's social media-esque, it's amplifying learning. It's so many things. So that's why I latch on to Flipgrid and try to get everyone else in the district using Flipgrid. So yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts or feelings or ideas? Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon for our little Where to Find the Curriculum Standards session. And yeah, we'll just keep chipping away at what we've been doing all year and keep moving forward, and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. It's the end of the workday for Andreas and Liz, so. Okay. We'll see you all tomorrow. We do not have a virtual check-in because it's Wednesday. So we'll see you Thursday morning for a virtual check-in. So, have a good night, everyone. Bye.